Hi, it's Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. And today is March 13th. And it dawned on me when I said the 13th this morning. And I thought about that's the day that I think people believe their bad luck or unlucky things will happen to them. And I remember when I was a little girl and my mother would told me these superstitions, these thoughts. Often we pick stuff up as children, right? And it's up to us to really decide to accept these thoughts or these ideas or to reject them. And unknowingly, sometimes we don't know the impact of accepting an idea as well as rejecting one. However, as a child, somehow I knew intuitively that my thoughts as well as others were powerful. That anytime I felt that someone said something that was negative, they were trying to put something on me, I would reject that thought and visually have that thought being pushed back to them because somehow I knew the importance of labels. And I don't know if it was, and I think back as I'm speaking about this, and I remember talking to one of my family members, and I share this actually in one of my manuscripts how I was standing there in front of her. And I watched her shed tears about her frustration over what people were saying about her. They were considered negative things, like calling her outside her name, etc. And I could literally feel her presence, like she took off her mask that she that was evidently imposed upon her, however she accepted. But she took off that mask for a brief, I don't know, a few seconds. And I could see her innocence and I could see her desire wanting to be herself. But the weight of others' words, their opinions, she allowed that to overtake her. And after we were done with that conversation, I could feel her putting the mask back on, returning to the mask after voicing her frustration. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that those imposed thoughts, those accepted thoughts, she carried those through with her throughout her life and they directed her path. Just like when I think about my thoughts about realizing that I am not responsible for my father. No child is ever responsible for what an adult does. And I remember I was in Oprah's community, and I was participating then. And I remember someone said that, and I said, it helped the way I got over that or worked through my pain associated with not having my biological father around. And there was a reason for that, a reason that my mom took upon herself and said, I can't raise my children in this home. I cannot do this any longer because either I'm going to go to jail or something's going to happen to you, is what she thought about her husband, what she shared with me. And so she made that decision. And she was not silent about why she made the decision. We actually knew, and evidently I saw it because I reported to the police when I was at some point 3 or 4 years old. I reported to a family member on his side of the family, and word got back to him. But I knew at some age, and evidently I must have seen where my father was abusing my mother. Now, I've had thoughts, and my mom said, and I asked my mom, I said, Mom, did this happen? This kind of popped into my head. And she was like, yes, that happened. And for a long time, I did have anger kind of visit me periodically throughout my life. I was angry at my father because I felt like that here's a grown adult and he made a decision to allow something else to master him, to not be there for his family. And when I was on the Oprah community, I had mentioned, I had wrote that I realized that for one, that I am not responsible for my father and his decision. And number two is that he missed out on raising me after seeing what it all takes to raise a child when I was a novice mother. That anger popped in and I was frustrated because I remember part of the reason of being angry was watching my mother, as the oldest of three, watching my mother struggle to put a roof over her head, relationships that she had to deal with, um, working two jobs, long hours, 10, 12 hours a day, trying to make it. And she wasn't one to complain about it. She felt like that was her duty. She felt like this was the choice that she made. And she was utilizing her choice. She was working out her choice. And I my mother was very influential and not just helping me to get through some of my experiences, dark experiences, if you will, but she also helped me to avoid many of the experiences that can come with the other experiences I had. Like if you read about, and I didn't find out till I was in my 20s, because I believe that statistics do not define me. I didn't really start looking at things until I was living by myself in St. Louis. And I realized that many people that didn't grow up in or grew up in an abusive home or experienced domestic violence on some level, or didn't have their biological father, statistics was not very favorable, or the results were not very favorable, because they said that that basically you would drop out, end up as a dropout, teenage pregnancy, all of that things and everything. When I think about my life, I was definitely not immune to those situations. It was by the grace of God, I believe, and it was by my decisions and my belief that something more powerful than me loved me and wanted to take care of me. It was my belief that the thought that now I know what love isn't, so I'm on the search for what love is, and ultimately loving myself and increase and having an awareness of all this stuff that can come with when you are in those, when you have experienced projected pain, things that are hidden that you don't know that's there. That's why they're hidden, right? You don't know that that's there. But it is the thought behind the thought, behind the thought, behind the thought that keeps you believing that you are not your experiences and keep you standing and living another day. And, I just, there isn't enough that I can say about how my mother's words of wisdom have influenced me, have helped me to heal from the inside out, to avoid situations, how principles, I began to be a student of life, and I knew that I wanted to learn from life, and life was not about making mistakes but making lessons. And so you go through tests and they test your character, and I know that we're supposed to reflect God and his truth. We're supposed to embrace our spiritual being inside of us, nourish it with positive and truths, and to express it in the forms of our gifts, our talents, our abilities, our words, our actions, role modeling, integrity, hope, purpose, meaning, all of that. And that each one of us, even those that have projected their pain on you, was made in the image of God. And I knew that even one of them that projected his pain on me was a fabulous artist. And I don't know if it pained me more to see that he wasn't utilizing his gift to the maximum. And I've been talking about, I've talked about racism, prejudice. I've talked about healing. I've talked about, I have on Wednesdays where I talk about seeds we plant, including weeds. this year for 2026. And there's no doubt when you look at your life and you look at what you've been through, that tied into those experiences is our purpose, our reason for being here. And all of it is to remind us of who we really are, to not get so caught up in our experiences, no, not so caught into our body, our external body, or the way we look, but that our life and our meaning goes beyond that, deeper, so much deeper that not even, we probably won't even understand the depth of our being until we transition over to see the full light of who we are and what we're here to do. I was watching My Hero Academia with my son, and there's so much teaching in that. So much teaching in that, and how that we are here to overcome obstacles. And we all have our vision of how we see our lives. But it's when we talk about principles, what is it that gets you up in the morning to realize that whatever just occurred, even if it's seen as negative, doesn't define you? That people have the right to make choices, and what they choose is their choice, and they'll have to live with that. And yes, you can say that, but they projected their pain on me, and you have a choice to decide if you will allow that to master you versus you master it. And I do not want to underestimate any experience that we go through, that we any life experience. But I do want to hold up the idea, the thought that we are beyond our experiences, that we have within us the ability to transcend our experiences. Even if we don't look the way we looked, even if we don't have what we want to have at this moment, that we are much bigger than all this that we see in the world and that we experience, that we have to stay with our conviction. And I love the phrase that was said today as well. You have to remember your origin. We have to remember that's what we come from. What did you come from? Because in that lies the power that you need to sustain, to transcend, to be still, to know the presence of the God within you. And I don't want to get too far, but I do want to talk about today, Friday, because I've been talking about my mother's principles and how they have helped me to heal from the inside out. I've used them in other contexts. One of them that I have a devotion manuscript that I had worked on or have. And it's how I realized that my mother's words of wisdom were closely linked to Bible verses. But in talking about them now, Friday, as a day that I consider the major dump day of the week, right? So every day should be a day where we assess our inner garden and see, what am I holding on to that is not increasing my growth, my spiritual alignment, for my personality with the spirit, divine spirit within me? What am I doing? Because it's Michael Jackson had it right. The man in the mirror, we have to look at ourselves first. It's so quick in the world to point the blame, to point the finger to someone else. You made me do this. You are why I am like this. Instead of, like in the Course of Miracles, owning our power. We're so afraid of the power that we have. We're so afraid of what it looks like to forgive, of what it looks like to have compassion, because the world can tell you, or will tell you, you forgive them? Why? What's wrong with you? You must be just as crazy they are. No, it's because I see the bigger picture. It's because I see the projected pain from pain, that someone felt like that was the only reason they could they could survive, is they had to project their pain on someone else. And pain knows no race, no color, no age, no gender. It's an idea that wants to multiply just like anything else. And if you go beyond the mentality of our personality and you link with the divine power, you will see the hearts of people. You will see the innocence of people. And my mother spoke a lot of wisdom in my heart. You know, like I was saying that bad luck. I digress. Bad luck, that I didn't want to believe in bad luck. I broke a mirror on the side of her bed, and I sat there in that moment, and I said, and I was like, I just can't live like that. And in that moment, I got rid of the superstitions, the ones about sweeping the back of your heel and a black cat and broken mirror. I said, I don't believe in bad luck. And I was done with it. That was it. I was like, I don't believe in it. So I don't worry about a black cat. Mirror, I've broken plenty of mirrors, even the hand ones. I have one right now. So I refuse to allow my life to be limited by superstitions and by ideas that will keep me entrapped, that will keep me in the past, that will keep me angry and upset and afraid, that fear only lasts for so long, that worry only lasts for so long, that it has to change into something else because that is, to me, that is not living. And I deserve, but see, the other part of that is that, yeah, it's not living, but should I go take my life? No, because I deserve to live. I want to see this life out. If you, when you go through, and when I think about when I've gone through stuff, I want to see it through. I want to see it through to the end, because that's when it gets good. When you have traveled the road of the greatest resistance, when you have tried your best, and sometimes you were in dark valleys. I was in dark valleys and I was like, oh my goodness. But when you travel the road and you pack all the stuff that can help you, my mother's principles, words of wisdom, life lessons, things that I've learned, taking the good and leaving the bad. When you have carried so much and gone so far, it's like, I want to keep going. When you've climbed the mountains of courage and of hope and perseverance and determination, you want to keep going. The principle that I want to talk about, that I hope I can really say this as clear as possible. But one of the things my mother told me is that don't wait for others to tell you to do the right thing. You know, it was in COVID, during COVID, where a lot of people weren't wearing masks. And my mom was encouraging us to make sure we wear a mask, make sure we do what we're supposed to do. And I heard that people that weren't wearing masks were often infected with it. I don't know everybody. Or they passed on. They didn't want to wear a mask. That's an example. When you know that it is the right thing to heal and you decide not to heal. And then you're dealing with high blood pressure. You're dealing with panic attacks. You're dealing with fear. You're dealing with lack of indecision. You're dealing with physical manifestations of resentment, bitterness, hate. When you know the right thing, when we know that you have to heal, and it's true for your sake, and it's also for the sake of others, because other people watch you, that we are together on this. We are a family, a larger family than our immediate brothers, sisters, mother, cousins, tradition. We are all one spirit, belong to one spirit, divided into many forms of different colors, different races, different religions, choices that we make, that all of us at some point forget who we are. I know it's right for me to heal. I know it's right for me to forgive. And I know it's been hard sometimes, because you're like, why do I have to make the right choice? Why can't I sink down to somebody else's level? And I know I've said things, but I also know that I realize that when you sink down to others' level, sometimes you feel even worse. When I know that it's right to be a guardian, spiritual guardian for my children, and to help them to see what forgiveness look like, what kindness look like, to help them to feel valued, to help them to feel loved. When I know that there are certain actions that are better than others, the words that I use, the stuff that I put in my body, the things that I allow to be done to me, the food that I eat, the weight that I am. When we know the right thing to do, then we should do it. We don't have to wait for someone else to tell us that we need to heal. We don't have to wait to tell someone to tell us that we need to eat or that we need to slow down our eating or decrease our eating or exercise. Often we know what to do, but we lack the courage. We lack the often we lack not just discernment. Yeah, and we can lack a discernment because discernment is actually an innate quality. We don't have to go looking for it. It's inside of us. We're not lacking it. We just choose not to use it. And often it's because we've forgotten who we are. We're forgetting this infinite being, this power that we have inside of us, and how powerful it is that it stands behind us when we choose, especially when we choose the right thing to do. That we are the one that's guiding, helping to guide this power through our thoughts, through our minds, through forgiveness, through compassion, through love, through peace. And we have to use this power rightly. We have to go within and bring out what is the best thing to do in the situation. We have to build up, build up our alignment with this power. Discernment is already there. We just have to ask for it. We have to align with it. We have to believe that what we're doing right, we have to believe and trust in ourselves because often that prevents us from deciding, the indecision, because we've lost trust in ourselves. We've lost trust in this higher being. We're afraid to be ourselves because we don't know if people will criticize us or we don't belong. We stop ourselves. We limit ourselves. And it's time to take off the cuffs, to break the bonds of imprisonment, to realize that we don't have to be like others or others have to like us for what we do. We just have to be ourselves. And when we be ourselves, we build up our confidence, we build up our self-esteem, we build up that trust, that faith muscle. We build up discernment. We use it more and more. The power becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Already there, discernment, peace, love, happiness, all of those spiritual fruit, that fruit is inside of us. Those seeds are there. It's us needing to bring it out of us by aligning with the source of life, the true power that stands within us. And to realize that it's not just us, but we're packed with generations and generations of people that want of light, of these beings that want to see us succeed. We are not alone, though we may feel like we are because we don't see it. But in truth and in spirit, we have people, we have spiritual beings that are there to help see us through, to help us transcend these experiences that we have in life. We know deep down inside the right thing to do. And I'm going to encourage you, as what I say to you, I say to myself, encourage you. What do? We need to sit quietly with ourselves. We need to assess the situations that we're in and not be so quick to rush around and do things. Yes, sometimes things cause for a quick decision, but other times it's if we get peaceful and real still with ourselves and align with this true power to help guide us, we will know the right thing to do. It's always there, wanting us to ask it, wanting us to believe it, wanting us to trust it, wanting us to seek it. And I knew, and it's not about blaming, it's not about shaming, it's not about, oh, I knew I should have done that, but I didn't do it. We learn from it and we move on. Because I believe there are second chances. I believe that life gives us other opportunities, whether we are conscious of them or not. And the hope is to become conscious of them, to realize those opportunities that we're giving. And sometimes because you can regret. I know I've seen it where I've really like, oh man, I should have done that in that experience, and then I go on and experience it, and I realize I did exactly what I wanted to do. I think often we just have to increase our awareness, and sometimes things take care of themselves. That the opportunity will come. That this infinite power has a way of working things out if we just see it. To really see it, to really see how it's working in our lives and to trust it. And I know it's easier to say and harder to do, and I get it, but it's a process, and it knows your heart, and it feels your tears, it feels your disappointments and frustration, but it also is there with you. It doesn't leave you. It's faithful. It's just, always there. Don't ever think that someone has gotten away with what they've done to you or you've experienced something. Don't ever think that. I know it's easy to, because you can see people laughing and just forgetting, not even apologizing or not speaking the truth. But do know the truth always has a way of getting out. So I don't know who needed to hear that. I wasn't planning on going there. I wasn't even planning on what I was going to say here, but I do want you to understand, to realize, to hopefully seek and find the truth, that you are never alone, that we know the right thing to do. We're never confused. If we're confused, we're rejecting the truth. But that we have a power that we can align with, that will guide us, that will help us, that will learn, that will transcend, that will feel empowered, that will stand still and know the presence of God. So my mother told me, don't wait for others to tell you the right thing. You know what to do. And often when you do it, you see like sometimes the positive things that come with that. Often, 9 times out of 10, not 10 times out of 10, right? That you choose whatever it is, and then something comes of it. And you're like, oh my gosh. Whether it's a bill that goes away or gets paid, a friend comes by, you meet an unexpected person, something happens when you follow that gut, that intuition that tells you, do it now. And you do it. It's like magic. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Heal from the Inside Out. What my mama told me, one of her other principles is that don't wait for others to tell you to do the right thing. Do it. Rather do it than not do it. And we can take our stand today, starting today. Doesn't matter what you did in the past. We're not, at least it doesn't matter in the sense of feeling shameful or blaming. But what matters now is awareness. And awareness is where we change our thoughts to a more productive, creative thought, to thoughts that bring about true self expression. I'll talk to you soon. Make this lifetime great because you still can.